Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. But if you're new here, well then welcome to Just Horrifying. If you guys love true crimes, don't mind an Aries speaking her mind, and of course don't take offense to any lewdness coming out of my mouth, well then I strongly suggest you subscribe to my channel. In today's case, I'm going to be talking about a beautiful 15-year-old girl whose arms were cut off with a machete. Mary Vincent was a beautiful 15-year-old who danced competitively and dreamt of traveling the world as a performer. Now, like many teenagers, she was dealing with the fallout with her parents' divorce and decided she wanted to spend the night at her grandfather's house in Berkeley, California. Just so you know, this was the year 1978 where hitchhiking was more common at that time, and many wouldn't even think twice about getting a ride from a stranger. Oh gosh, before I move on with this case, let me tell you about this story. So I was about 8 years old, I want to say. It was my mom driving, my aunt in the passenger seat, and then me and my uncle in the back seat. And my uncle's about 3 years older than me. And mind you, I am from Southern California, so we had gone up to Azusa Canyon, and on the way back down, there was a car on the side with two guys. One of the guys was like holding up his thumb, I guess indicating, of course, he needed a ride. So my mom ended up stopping the car and asked what happened. And the guy had said that they got a flat and can she drive them down to the store so he can call someone for help. So my mom looked at us. My aunt had said, no, don't do it. And my mom's like, well, I mean, what could be the harm? So my mom told the guy she would only be taking one of them to the bottom of the canyon where there was the store and the other guy just staying there with the car. And the guy had told my mom that was perfectly fine. So my mom told my aunt to get in the back seat with me and my uncle, and the guy went and sat in the passenger seat. Well, while driving down the canyon, my mom ended up slowing down and was about to stop, and she straight out asked the guy, "You're not gonna kill us all, are you?" And the guy laughed and was like, "No." I mean, what's the guy gonna really say? Yeah, ma'am, I'm gonna kill all you guys. But yeah, my mom says crazy things like that. So I don't even know why I said that story, but anyways, I guess to say that hitchhiking was more common back in the days. Anyhow, back to the case. So Mary's plan was, like I said before, going to her grandfather's house, who lived in Berkeley, California. Well, on September 29th, 1978, Mary stood along a few other hitchhikers hoping for a ride while raising their thumbs up in the air. After waiting for what felt like hours, a van ended up pulling over and Mary ran to it. It was an older guy. Mary ended up telling him she was trying to make it to Los Angeles, California. Well, the man agreed to take her even though it was out of the way. She ended up running back to the hitchhikers to grab her backpack, and the hitchhikers told Mary to stay with them because the man had gave off odd vibes. But she pretty much felt confident in the ability to take care of herself. And she said the man seemed nice enough. Lawrence Bernard Singleton was the man's name, and he was in his early 50s. So after getting in the car, Mary knew about how long the trip would be, and sensing no immediate danger, Mary ended up falling asleep. Not sure how long she ended up drifting off, but when she woke up, she quickly realized that Larry was going the wrong way. So she ended up getting pretty angry and insisted he turn the car around immediately. Larry seemed to shrug it off, I guess, and claim it was an honest mistake and turned the car around. But a short time later, he ended up telling Mary that he needed to relieve himself and pulled over on the side of the road. So Mary decided to do the same. She ended up getting out to stretch her legs, and when she exited the van, she seen that her shoes were untied. And as she bent down to tie her shoelace, Larry hit her on the head with a sledgehammer and threw her back in the van, and he drove them to a deserted area. He ended up tying Mary up and sexually assaulting her throughout the whole night. The next day, Larry got a machete in the back of his van and grabbed her left arm and started hacking away at it. Mary said she started to fall, and then he took another swing and she grabbed his arm really tight, and she couldn't figure out why she was holding onto him so tight but yet falling at the same time. Then he ended up grabbing her right arm and took a swing at it, and took another swing and another and another. Larry ended up cutting off Mary's both forearms in an attempt to prevent her body from being identified. Mary was conscious but in shock and losing I'm sure, massive amounts of blood, Mary ended up going limp. Larry believed she was dead, so he ended up dragging her down the canyon and stuffing her into a pipe, and he ended up leaving. Shortly after this ordeal, Mary would lose consciousness and nearly died from her wounds. But a miracle happened. Mary slowly began to come around, and even though she was nude and covered in her own blood, she knew she had to get out of that situation. So she was able to make her way out of the ravine and started walking down the road with her arms raised above her head, hoping this would help save what left of her arms that she had, because she didn't want to lose any more blood. One car was approaching and ended up starting to speed off in a panic, but not long after, two women were lost and ended up coming across Mary, still staggering in the heat down that road, and they ended up stopping, wrapping her in towels, and drove her to the nearest airport where further help was contacted. Mary had a detailed composite sketch and described her attacker. Larry's neighbors seen the sketch on TV, ended up calling the police, and Larry was arrested and was only sentenced to 14 years. But listen to this shit. Just when you thought things couldn't get worse, well, this monster only served 8 years. 8 years due to quote-unquote good behavior. Just prior to being released, his psychiatrist, though, did state the following: because he is so out of touch with his hostility and anger, he remains an elevated threat to others, inside and outside of prison. But after being paroled, no one would allow this monster to live in their city, and after unsuccessfully attempting to relocate him several times in different cities, Larry was finally allowed to live on the grounds of San Quentin in a trailer. Larry would eventually be allowed to move back to his native state of Florida, where he would continue to get in trouble. In 1990, he would be convicted of theft twice, serving a 60-day sentence. But on February 19th, 1997, in Tampa, Florida, a local house painter had noticed a horrific scene unfolding inside a resident's home. He quickly ended up calling the police and described that a nude man covered in blood was repeatedly stabbing a nude woman who lay motionless on the sofa. He even told a 911 operator that he could hear her bones being crunched after being stabbed. The victim was a 31-year-old Roxanne Hayes. She was a mother of 3 and was doing what she could to support her family. She had agreed to meet with this monster Larry for $20. Shortly after the incident, Larry would attempt to take his own life, but of course was unsuccessful. He would be housed in a psychiatric hospital for some time before heading to jail to await trial. Mary, though, did ended up flying down from California to Florida to testify on behalf of Roxanne and to ensure that this would never happen again. It took the jury 4 hours to come to a decision of guilty. On April 14th, 1998, Larry was given a death sentence for the horrific murder of Roxanne Hayes. On December 28th, 2001, Larry was serving his sentence and awaiting his death when he died at the age of 74 from cancer. This case is freaking crazy. I believe there are more victims than just the 2 we know about. This guy was literally a monster, and I was stunned that he got out of prison after only serving 8 years after cutting Mary's arms off with a machete. But if he would have been in prison for life, Roxanne would be alive to see her children grow old into adults. But alright, you guys, well, until next time, bye.